Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Daily Football Roundup proudly brings to you the best damn podcast in the world, the 12-ounce Coral Route Podcast. I am your host, Aaron Current. You can find me on X at Aaron Current. My co-host, Kyle, can be found there at DF Roundup. And our co-host, Corey, is on the road tonight. So what's going on, Kyle? We got a two-man show tonight. What's going on?
Two-man show tonight reminds me of what 12, 13, 14 years ago when we were a whole lot younger and we were shooting the shit in the motor pool because Aaron and I go back to our Army days. He's a big Bears fan, obviously. You guys know that already. Myself, a Packers fan. And we would have some heated conversations, but they were always pretty respectful. I don't think we need to get heated tonight or anything like that. We've got too much to get into with all of the free agency. There was some trades. The NFL is shooken up right now, and it's going to continue, within the next few weeks leading up to the draft, and probably even after that too.
Absolutely, and like you said, we go way back. I remember back when you guys were turning the reins over to Aaron Rodgers, and you weren't sure what to think one way or the other with the young guy taking over. You were all in on Jordan Love this time, but I think you learned from the past. There was a lot of free agents signed this week. I made a whole big ticker. Jonah Williams, the right tackle, goes to Arizona. Joe Flacco goes to Indianapolis. The Cincinnati Bengals signed Sheldon Rankins and brought back Von Bell, which that was crazy. I mean, they just let him go last year. He goes to Carolina for a year and comes back. Kendall Fuller goes to Miami. DJ Reader joins our division and goes to Detroit, which is I'm worried about that one. DJ Wanham goes to Carolina to try and take Brian Burns' place. Devin Bush goes to Cleveland, and Devin White goes to Philly. Joe Mixon signed a 2-year deal with Houston. Curtis Samuel goes to Buffalo. A ton of news. I got it all scrolling at the bottom. You guys brought back AJ Dillon. What was over this past week in free agency? What's the biggest name that sticks out to you?
There's a lot of big names that really stick out to me, and some that probably I haven't seen them come across your ticker yet, and we don't know all of the contracts until they're actually laid out there too. Chase Young's 1 year, $13 million. Not all of it's guaranteed. I guess it is all guaranteed, but there's incentives that can be escalated. I don't know. Mike Williams, Tyron Smith. The Jets are loading up on offensive linemen. They're trying to get more weapons for Aaron Rodgers. But again, those contracts that these guys that are signing with New York who are injury prone per se, they're more incentive based, and they have to play so many games and so many snaps and that to hit those escalations. But some of the names that stick out to me that I really wanted as a Packers fan is going to be Kendall Fuller, the corner from Washington, and another name from Washington is Cameron Curl, the safety. Devin White too. I see him scrolling across the board right now too. But those DBs, those linebackers, that's really huge. We haven't seen a lot of wide receiver movement yet just because the draft is loaded. So seeing some of these guys signed too, Curtis Samuel, Marquise Brown, that one could be pretty big for Kansas City. Devondre Campbell, as it goes across the bottom, it's like, oh my gosh, I forgot he signed there. There's just so much movement in the NFL, and this is it's an exciting time, but winning the offseason and winning at this time in the NFL doesn't mean that you're a winner come the regular season. So we'll see how that all pans out. Green Bay got two guys that I really like, but there's just not a lot of linebackers in the draft that I would have liked to see signed. And it's going to be, you're seeing teams it's an arms race almost. It feels like.
Yeah, that's true. And a big thing that you said there with winning this time of year definitely does not equate to winning come the actual football season. I feel like the Jacksonville Jaguars win this portion of the season every year, and then the season rolls around and they do the same stuff most of the time. They don't do a whole lot. Yeah, a lot of the linebackers. I always put Devin White and Devin Bush together because they came out in that same draft, and I felt like they were really similar with each other. They both went in, I believe, the top five, top 10, either way. And their careers continue. Marquise Brown takes a 1 year deal in Kansas City. He said that he took a little less money that was sitting on the table to possibly go play with Patrick Mahomes and get himself a Super Bowl. And I mean, you see it year in and year out. As a Bears fan, I had my eyes on interior defensive linemen. I like Andrew Billings as a big nose tackle. And we did draft a couple of defensive tackles, but I had my eyes on Sheldon Rankins or DJ Reader to come in and play the three technique. We don't get either of them. Sheldon Rankins goes to Cincinnati and takes the place of DJ Reader, who goes to Detroit, which will be a handful for both of our teams to deal with because DJ Reader is a monster of a man who all he does is get pressure right up the middle and just really messes with your defense. But those are the two biggest ones for me. And then the next one I have here is Aaron Donald retires. This is a guy who the Bears were one pick away from drafting him. I wanted him to fall to us that year, but he didn't. We end up going with Kyle Fuller. He goes on to become, in my opinion, the modern day best defensive tackle in the league, year in and year out. He's a guy who I've been looking up now that my son's playing D line. I've been looking up his drills because Aaron Donald's not all that big. He's 6'1", so it's not like he's this mountain of a man that just gets home by being so big. So I'm trying to teach my son leverage and using his weight distribution, which is things that Aaron Donald does fantastically. Now it does help that he has like 34-inch arms, but just learning those things, I think that he has done enough to pass on his knowledge of the game to the people behind the players coming up behind him, and hope he enjoys his retirement. I'm not sure what he's got in store for him going forward, but in my opinion, one of the great ones retired. I think he'll be a Hall of Famer in 5 years. For
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. I mean, Aaron Donald, when you play that interior defensive lineman position, it's not all stats. Yeah, Aaron Donald had a whole lot of sacks and a whole lot of tackles and a whole lot of this and a whole lot of that, but he also helped players around him get stats because he was being double or triple teamed. I mean, look at Kobe Turner, I believe it was the rookie defensive tackle for the Rams. The guy was one of the runners for defensive rookie of the year. And it's because he played right beside Aaron Donald. Not to take anything away from Kobe Turner, but you play next to arguably, like you said, one of the best defensive tackles of modern day to play the game. I would argue that Aaron Donald, now that he is retiring, he's retiring currently as the best defensive tackle right now. And I think Chris Jones kind of steps up to that, and we saw him get his big contract and everything. But
Mhm.
it shows you, the Chiefs are choosing Chris Jones for that long-term contract as opposed to L'Jarius Sneed, and is one of those reasons because Sneed looks a whole lot better because they have a better rush because of Chris Jones. Is that why they're choosing Chris Jones over L'Jarius Sneed? But Aaron Donald retiring is a huge hit for this Rams defense too,
Mhm.
and they've known for a few months that he was going to retire. He waited some time to kind of announce it to everybody. I was a little surprised by it. I thought Aaron Donald was going to come back just because he hadn't. Yes, he had been on the fence since they won the Super Bowl, but you hadn't really heard too much of it. So seeing that he was retiring was definitely surprising to me, at least a little bit. But we'll see how they hit in the draft because they've done really well in the draft the past few years. And the Rams are kind of finding this fountain of youth and getting a whole lot younger too. But Aaron Donald, I think, first ballot Hall of Famer when he gets there.
Absolutely.
Him and Jason Kelsey going in together, and I think they'll both be first ballots. I think that'll be a pretty good class.
Yeah, I agree with that. Both of those guys definitely deserve it. And I mean, you talked about Kobe Turner this year, but I watched Leonard Floyd leave Chicago and go play alongside Aaron Donald and resurrect his career and push that into other moves. He continues to hit free agency and he's doing really well. A guy who looked pretty much like a bust when he left Chicago and he was able to do some things alongside Aaron Donald that really pushed his career. But yeah, I mean, I'm gonna honestly I watched since I got the Sunday ticket, I find myself watching more of these NFC West teams than I expected. I love the San Francisco 49ers, but I would catch a lot of Rams games too. I mean, I love the way Cooper Cup plays. I like to watch Matthew Stafford sling it, and obviously Aaron Donald on the defensive side of the ball definitely had me intrigued. Play in and play out, just like you said, a guy who gets triple team, double teamed, and the the infamous video of when he gets after Geno Smith and and Geno goes, "Oh my God!" and just throws the ball. It was that
I
was
mean, could you imagine a guy like Aaron Donald rushing right up the middle towards you?
yeah
If you don't leave with a little bit of crap in your pants, then you know what I mean? Like,
yeah
I could only imagine being a quarterback and having this man blow right past your center and your offensive guard and just be coming towards you. I don't blame Geno Smith at all for, yeah, I couldn't imagine. I wouldn't want to be hit or whatever by Aaron Donald, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. The first trade I'd like to talk about is another player that is leaving Chicago. The Chicago Bears traded away my favorite quarterback that ever played for the Chicago Bears. I liked Cutler. A lot of people didn't like Cutler, but Justin was number one to me. I liked him in the draft. They drafted him, and I was surprised that they were able to get him. My favorite Bears quarterback traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 2025 sixth round pick that will convey into a fourth round pick if Fields plays 51% of the snaps. And I heard that the Steelers allegedly they threw in a Primanti sandwich with the pick as well. That's their signature sandwich in Pittsburgh, which is really nice of them to kind of give Ryan Poles something back, to kind of fill his stomach up after they absolutely fleeced the Chicago Bears on this, giving them peanuts to get a starting caliber NFL quarterback to go to their quarterback room that is now Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. What are your thoughts on this, Kyle? I know you came in my Bears chat last Sunday and dropped a little comment, but I've been waiting until tonight to really get your thoughts on this trade and the Bears going forward.
I mean, the Bears are absolutely loading up this offseason. You brought in Keenan Allen, you brought in DeAndre Swift. More than likely they're gonna, if they don't trade number 9 overall pick, they could take an offensive lineman or they could um, um, take a wide receiver, obviously. And this wide receiver is loaded with, or this draft is loaded with wide receivers. If Chicago doesn't take a receiver at 9, let's say they go offensive tackle, they've only got 2 more picks in this draft. They've only got 2 more picks in the 2024 draft. You didn't even get a draft pick this year for Justin Fields. It's a 6th rounder next year.
Yeah,
So you don't even get to get anything for Justin Fields right now. The fact that you are loading up a talented team right now, I feel like a Bears fan. I feel like you right now, Aaron, because I'm about to go on a rant. I'm about to go on a tirade. You're loading up your team right now. Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, Khalil Herbert. I'm sure I'm missing another wide receiver in there somewhere too, because I feel like they probably brought in another one. But you're doing all this for Caleb Williams? You're not even doing this for the guy that you've had under center for the past, 3 years?
yeah,
You're doing this for a different quarterback. You're saying it's time for us to move on from Justin Fields, but we haven't given him enough to truly show what he can do for us. But let's move on. We're getting all this stuff in place to give to this rookie quarterback. who is probably going to win the Chicago Bears 5 games. I honestly feel like the Bears will win 5 or 6 games this year. Because once you get Caleb Williams in there and you see a rookie who is not a leader trying to lead this team of veterans, it ain't going to work for you. It ain't going to work for you at all. And I don't think the Bears are going to be good. And I could see Caleb Williams out of Chicago or out of the league within 4 or 5 years.
Wow, that's a bold statement. For the, I'll be honest, I hated the trade, because like I said, I love Justin, and I was to the point where if that's all I'm getting, just give me a locker room with both those guys in it. What's the worst that can happen? I mean, there was a Chicago media was that, like, they would just continue to say that will never work, that wouldn't work. They wouldn't say why one way or the other. They would just say, that's not going to work to have both of them in there. But that was the consensus, and it also came out that Ryan Poles had better offers on the table, but Justin Fields and his camp wanted to go to Pittsburgh. So he made it work for him, which looks better on him as a GM. And as you said, we brought in Keenan Allen. They brought in Gerald Everett, the tight end from the Los Angeles Chargers. DeAndre Swift, the running back from the Eagles that can run the ball as well as catch the ball out of the backfield. The offensive line is not, it's middle of the pack. It's not great. It's not awful, honestly. And honestly, for as much as I love Justin, he made the O-line look worse. The way he would hold on to the ball, and he had a slow delivery. He never learned how to do an anticipatory throw, which for all of Caleb Williams' fault, if that's the guy they go with. I've already seen him do that in college, anticipatory throws, and he's had to play from behind every single game. His defense was giving up 38 points per game last year. That's why there's so much of that on him to try and play hero ball. And honestly, that'll have to be coached out of him. But to say that we're only going to win 5 games, I just don't see how that's logical. We're playing a fourth place schedule. They won 7 games last year and had 3 games where they had double-digit leads in the fourth quarter, then blew it. You go and get Shane Waldron, who resurrected Geno Smith's career at quarterback, and he's going to get to work with Caleb Williams, who has been. If he would have came out last year, would he have been the number 1 pick, Kyle?
If Caleb Williams would have come out last year?
Mm-hmm. After winning a Heisman, after winning 11 games, after putting on the show that he did at USC, if he'd have came out last year, would he have been the number 1 pick, or would it have been Bryce Young?
I think that it depends on who's picking at number 1. If the Bears are sold on Caleb Williams and the Bears were sold on Caleb Williams last year, they wouldn't have moved out of number 1. But why did Caleb Williams not come out last year? Did Caleb Williams not come out last year because the Bears were picking at number 1? And he
No,
said, I don't want to
he
go to
wasn't old
Chicago.
enough. You have to have so many years in college before you come out.
I thought he was eligible to come out of the draft, but decided not to.
No, this was his first year he was eligible.
How many years has he been in college?
He played 1 year at Oklahoma and 2 years at USC.
Yeah, so he was in college for 3. Oh, okay. You're right. And he wasn't redshirted or anything like that. He played at Oklahoma as a freshman, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't have to sit out a year for transferring because they don't do that anymore.
Yeah, they changed the rules.
So you're right. Yeah, you're right. My bad. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on who picks at number 1, honestly, because you had Bryce Young, who went to Carolina. Was that going to be the consensus no matter what? If Carolina, I don't know. It's really kind of a hard question. I think that Caleb Williams still going number 1 after the season that they had is rough. I don't know that he should go number 1. I think that these quarterbacks all get pushed to the top, and that shouldn't happen. And we've seen that now with Zach Wilson being a backup, with Justin Fields being traded for peanuts, with Mac Jones being traded for peanuts, with all of these quarterbacks in the first 2 or 3 years of their contracts being traded away because they can't live up to that first round hype when they shouldn't even really be going in the first round. Yeah. And honestly, come draft time, we may see 4 quarterbacks in the first 4 picks, and we may see 6 quarterbacks in the first round, when I don't know if you should have 4 quarterbacks go in the first 4.
Yeah,
If this quarterback position wasn't pushed to the top so much, Marvin Harrison's probably going number one.
that's true. That's very true. I love Marvin Harrison Jr. Although he's making some questionable decisions in his offseason as well. I think they had their pro day today, and he
He
didn't do
sat out.
anything.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
like Caleb didn't do anything at the combine, but then when he had his pro day today, he did everything. He even punted the ball.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, I mean, I just think when it comes right down to it, and I broke it down last week, I believe, where I talked about what Justin Fields is going to be making in 2 years, as opposed to what Caleb's going to be making in 2 years, and the GM who's in charge making his pick, getting his guy, putting his stamp on the franchise as he's going to live or die with this guy, and this has been the consensus number one overall for 2 years now. I don't know if it's the right move or not. We never do. I mean, I liked C.J. Stroud last year, but I absolutely didn't see him doing what he did. And if the Bears are able to bring in a Caleb Williams who has a C.J. Stroud type year, and bring in a I don't know, a Jared Verse, who's the defensive end out of Florida State, and he puts on a show like Will Anderson did, then you're talking Bears changing everything, and they don't even care that they only had 4 draft picks in the draft last year. Just I don't know. I've come in here and I have been anti Caleb for a while. What scares me is the way he looked against Notre Dame and some of the other games down the stretch where they did go on a losing streak and they did get knocked out of the playoffs, which is why the video of him crying to his mother, that's what happened. He realized his national championship hopes were dashed that night in a game where he put up over 40 points as an offense because his defense was absolutely awful. And he cried in his mother's arms. I mean, I don't know if you played, I played, and there were plenty of games where I cried after. I was a high schooler. I wasn't a D1 athlete looking to go number one overall, obviously. But when you when you watch everything you hope for, everything you've worked for, everything you've played hard for dash like that, it's hard to control those emotions. And
I don't know.
will have to
Yeah.
fix that coming into the league, as well as there were several games where he had bad games and didn't do media after. That's not going to fly in the NFL. You do media as a quarterback after every single game, win, lose, or tie. But yeah, I don't know. I don't. I think they should have gotten more for Justin Fields, but the market is what the market is. What people are willing to give you is the market. And I don't know if you had trivia for tonight with it just being me, but I heard a bit of a trivia question the other day. In 2021 and 2022, there were 19 quarterbacks selected in the NFL draft. Do you know how many of those are supposed to start next year?
I think I've seen that it's maybe one,
It's two.
two from
It's Trevor.
2021 and 2022. Um, okay, 21, 22. 22 was the draft that Pickett went in the first round, right?
Yes, I think so.
Brock Purdy's going to be one of them,
Yeah.
who was Mr. Irrelevant the year he got drafted. And then the other one is going to be Kyler Murray. Was he drafted number one in 2021?
No, he was
He was
before.
before Joe Burrow, wasn't he? He was
Mhm.
2019. Um,
I almost
oh,
said the name.
oh, 21, 22. Okay. Um, so that's not those. Hold on. I can get this. I can get this. Um, maybe I can get this. What year was Hertz? Was Hertz in 21?
It's not Hurts. It's
Okay.
it was Trevor Lawrence and Brock Purdy. Those are the
Oh,
two.
Trevor Lawrence. That's right.
Those are the two
Because
slated.
Burrow was 20.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's wild.
yeah.
And they were
Oh,
both taken in the same draft?
I believe
No.
Purdy was the year after Lawrence.
Yeah, because
If I'm not
Purdy, that was
mistaken.
only Purdy's second year. This past
Yeah,
year was Purdy's second year, right? Yeah.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Huh.
I heard that on the radio the other day. I was like, that is insane. That shows you how much of a crapshoot the
Well,
quarterback position is at
it's not
all levels.
really. it's not really it's not that it's a crapshoot. It's that you have these guys being pushed higher than they should be getting drafted.
Well, not only that, it's the situation that they're brought into. A lot of times when a quarterback is drafted number one, this is why it's so different with the Bears. Is what typically when a quarterback's draft, and I'm sorry to turn this into a Bears podcast, but typically when a quarterback is drafted number one overall, they're coming to a team that has no offensive line. They don't have a go-to wide receiver. They might have a tight end that maybe might be able to catch, but who knows? They don't have a defense. They have to be the savior. Whereas this is a different situation. We are there because of someone else's pick, and I like what they have built to try and give a rookie quarterback something nice and cozy to land on. But we'll move on. I feel like we've touched on that quite a bit. The another NFL trade that I didn't see coming: Desmond Ritter, the quarterback for Atlanta, going to Arizona for Rondale Moore, the wide receiver who he was kind of a gadget guy in Arizona. I remember when he was drafted, I believe out of Purdue. Um, he, I mean, I liked him a lot. I also liked Desmond Ritter out of Cincinnati. I guess he goes out there and he's going to be the backup for Kyler Murray and Atlanta putting some weapons around Kirk Cousins down there in hot Atlanta, maybe pushing for that NFC South crown. What do you think of this trade?
This one was This one was very seeing Desmond Ritter get traded from Atlanta to Arizona for wide receiver Rondell Moore was a bit of a head scratcher, to be honest. When I looked at it, I was like, why would Arizona want to make this trade? Now we kind of see a lot more. I think there was 67 or something of that quarterbacks that started a game last year. And I mean, Arizona, I think, had three of them. They had
Hmm.
Clayton Tune, they had Joshua
Yeah, Dobbs played
uh,
there.
they had Robert Joshua Dobbs start a game, and they had Kyler Murray starting games too. And you see multiple teams starting different quarterbacks, and that's why we saw so many quarterbacks get drafted in 2023 as well. But
Hmm.
you're trading away one of Kyler Murray's pass catchers. I get it. The draft this year is very, very heavy in pass catchers, and Arizona has 2 first-round picks because they have Houston's.
Hmm.
Um, but who's left besides Greg Dortch to catch passes, or I'm forgetting the tight end's name right now, and I don't know why. Um,
Oh man, and he saved some fantasy.
oh, he was great, and I had him in multiple fantasy leagues, and he absolutely came on. And I can't think.
Well, they got
Uh,
rid of Zach Ertz because of that guy. That was it was
they
something.
did. Yep. Now I've got to Google it.
But I think they'll end up with Marvin Harrison Jr. fourth overall. If quarterbacks go 1, 2, 3, maybe they'll even trade down if someone wants to come up and get a quarterback. So you'll have your pick at the best wide receiver in the class. Do you have the tight end?
Tr- Trey McBride, who absolutely put himself on the map last year,
Yeah.
and was the wide receiver one in Arizona. But and I guess we can jump in already quickly, I guess, to this other trade that you have posted. It's Minnesota getting an additional first-round pick,
Hmm.
trading 2 2s and a 6 to Houston for that number 23 overall, and this is so they can probably move up for a quarterback. And more
Yep.
than likely, they're not trading up to 1, they're not trading up to 2, and they're probably not trading up to 3. It's gonna be number 4 or number 5, and I already talked about earlier how we could see 4 quarterbacks going in the top 4.
Hmm.
This is where the 4th comes from. 4th one comes from. It's with Minnesota, it's JJ McCarthy, and they trade up to number 4. If that happens, Arizona, unless they trade back up, isn't gonna be able to get Marvin Harrison Jr. And they're saying that Marvin Harrison may not even be the number 1 wide receiver off the board. So we'll have to see. There's always surprises in the draft, which is
Hmm.
um, but I don't know. It was definitely a head scratcher. I guess Ritter fits the style of play in Arizona good enough behind Kyler, and maybe it's for Arizona to trade Kyler later this season or maybe it's for Arizona to trade Kyler in the offseason, because maybe they're not in love with Kyler Murray. Maybe they regret giving him that big contract. Maybe they're getting ready for life after Kyler Murray.
Is that a new I know it's a new head coach. Is it a new GM? Is that the GM that gave him that deal? Or was he saddled with that deal? Because if he was
Um,
saddled with it, I mean, again, like I've been saying with the Bears, he may not want to go forward with a guy that's not his. And Desmond Ritter, if anything, showed you he knows how to lose some ball games and get you some good.
yeah, the general manager was brought in. I just googled it, so it's not going to make me sound as smart. Cardinals hire Monty Ozenfort, because I believe I think is Bidwell the owner in Arizona. Because I remember somebody was texting from a burner phone, and there was all sorts of stuff going on in Arizona. But that GM's fired. So yeah, it's kind of the Bears situation. Maybe Kyler Murray's not their guy, and they want to bring in their own guy, and maybe it's a quarterback they're eyeing next year. So if Arizona trades Kyler Murray to a team in the middle of the season and gets, I don't know, multiple first round picks, a first round pick, a
Mhm.
sixth round pick like the Bears got for Justin Fields. I don't know, because there's such a value of quarterbacks and good quarterbacks to say four of them are going to go in the first four in the draft.
Yeah.
But then Justin Fields gets traded for a sixth round pick. Mac Jones gets traded for a sixth round pick. Kenny Pickett gets traded for pick swaps. I mean, they're just these quarterbacks are getting moved. Like, hey, we're done with you. We're going to take what we can get for you, but we're going to draft another quarterback in the draft very, very high and hope that
Yeah.
that works.
Well, I wonder how much of this is contracts as well. You got to work. You got to stay under the salary cap. Uh, as you said, we had several quarterbacks that were backup quarterbacks starting for several weeks last year. You had guys like Josh Dobbs, Robert Dobbs getting, going from one team to another just to get some playing time. And we see Kenny Pickett and a fourth round pick goes to Philadelphia for a 2025 for two 2025 seventh round picks and a 2024 third round pick, which is 98th overall. With I believe this technically happened before the Fields trade, but it was almost like a domino effect, where we were kind of looking like, okay, where does Justin fit? And then all of a sudden Pickett's out, and they bring Justin in, and I don't know if Kenny Pickett was asked to take I'm not sure how.
Kenny, when they added Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett wanted out, and I was following the Steelers late last year, more so Kenny Pickett, when he came back from foot or ankle injury or whatever it was that he was out for, and the Steelers decided to continue to roll with Mason Rudolph.
Mm,
Kenny Pickett said that when he would suit up, he told the media when he was ready to suit up, he was suiting up as the starting quarterback for the Steelers. The Steelers wanted to make him active as a emergency third quarterback, and Pickett said, no, I'm not suiting up as a third quarterback. You can say whatever you want to the media, tell them I'm still injured or whatever. I'm not suiting up. And I guess when they brought in Russell Wilson, Kenny Pickett took his ball and he went home.
yeah.
What's the movie? Is it Friday where the guy runs like this, all sad with his arms? That was Kenny Pickett when they added Russell Wilson.
Because Russell
Um,
Wilson came in and snatched his chain off, huh?
I guess he devoted it, and I mean, I think that there would have been open competition if Pickett stayed in Pittsburgh and could prove that he needed to what should have been the starter. Uh, but I think Russell Wilson probably also said, "Hey, I'm signing here because I know I'm going to start." And
Hmm.
Russell Wilson now is a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett right now too. I'd take Russell Wilson over Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
But even if we look at the Steelers, what are they doing? What are they doing? They trade away Deontay Johnson. And we talked about it last week in the show. Trade away Deontay Johnson, who is he gets a lot of receptions. He's a good PPR wide receiver. Uh,
Hmm.
they trade him away, and now you have George Pickens, who to me George Pickens is a diva. George
That's true.
Pickens needs to be reined in. Now, how's George Pickens and Russell Wilson going to, how's that chemistry going to go? Because Russell Wilson's probably the nicest, cheesiest guy you've ever met.
Yeah.
You could spit in Russell Wilson's face and he'd probably still want to shake your hand and say
I want
pleasant.
to shake your hand.
So I don't know. It's just I don't know. The Steelers, they're trading away Deontay. They got George Pickens. They got Kevin Austin. Now again, I go back to it. This is like the fourth time I've said it in this show. This draft is loaded with wide receivers.
Absolutely.
So they could easily get 2 or 3 in this draft and probably be okay. But it's every year we're seeing a wide receiver leave Pittsburgh. Chase Claypool, now Deontay Johnson. Is George Pickens next year?
I don't know. I will say George Pickens with the deep ball and both the quarterbacks that they brought in have a good deep ball. Maybe it works out. Maybe he gets fed the amount of times he wants. But you got Pat Freiermuth in the middle too. I think they're going to use him quite a bit.
I think that they might more so kind of put Freiermuth in that Deontay Johnson role. I think that they might put him more of a slot, kind of like what the Bills did when they drafted Kincaid.
Dawson Knox or Kincaid, yeah.
Kincaid. When they drafted Kincaid, he was more so brought in as a pass catcher. The Steelers took Darnell Washington pretty high last year.
Mm-hmm.
What round was he? He wasn't a first.
Second or third, I think.
Second or third, yeah. And Darnell Washington's more of a blocker. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't known as a pass catcher or anything like that, but he can still catch the ball.
Yeah.
So you put Freiermuth out there as a big body, as a slot guy, and good luck guarding that. And you've got George Pickens who can take it off the top, and you add 1 or 2 wide receivers in this draft, and they could be rolling with Russell Wilson.
Get a shifty little space eater down,
and there's
take it underneath.
Exactly. And you've got Jalen Warren and Najee Harris, and you've got that Arthur Smith as your offensive coordinator. Plus, there's talk, and this is all rumors.
That's right. They did get Arthur Smith. So you gotta remember who's the backup tight end, who's the second and third string running back, because they're never gonna see it coming.
Oh God. Oh Jesus. Oh.
I'm sorry, Justin. You got to go to that.
Justin Jefferson could still be traded from Minnesota as well.
I just can't see them doing that.
I don't think they would either. But CTESPN, and I hate that I'm giving Antonio Brown any time on my podcast to all of the thousands and thousands of viewers that we have. But he's been right on some things. If you follow CTESPN on Twitter, he's actually been ahead of some of these some of these guys, these Adam Schefter guys out there. But take it for what it's worth. He did say that the Steelers and the Patriots are both going after Justin Jefferson. Now, if I'm the Vikings, I'm not trading Justin Jefferson unless I'm getting an absolute haul. Because let's be honest, how is it going to be come week 6 and 7 when you're deciding between Sam Darnold and JJ McCarthy throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson? Which brings me to my next conspiracy theory. What if the Minnesota Vikings added an extra first-round pick, not because they're attempting to trade up and draft a quarterback, but because they call the Chargers and they say, hey, Harbaugh, how does 3 first-round picks for Justin Herbert sound? We know that you guys are cap-strapped. We know you've cut Mike Williams. We know you traded Keenan Allen. We know that Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa have both restructured their contracts. And we know that you came from Michigan and you have a high pick and JJ McCarthy's out there. Would Harbaugh say, hey, sure, 3 first-round picks for Justin Herbert. I'm now picking – they pick at what, 5? Is the Chargers at 5?
Yeah.
They pick at 5. They now pick at 11, and they pick at 23. You get JJ McCarthy, and you have Gus Edwards carrying the ball behind that.
Did they Did they give him GM powers when they?
No, they brought in a GM, Tom Telesco. Um, was it Tom Telesco?
I
No,
don't.
Tom Telesco went to Las Vegas. They hired a general manager.
Yeah,
They did, and I don't know.
I don't think there's a single GM on this planet that would take anything for Justin Herbert. I mean, if you have the ability to have one of those quarterbacks, the trading them away is completely out of the question.
Their GM is Joe Hortis, and this is his first time. He came over from Baltimore, which makes sense. You know, the Harbaughs always seem to
trade stuff to
bounce.
each other.
Yeah, yeah. So this is his first time being a GM. So if you think for a second that if Harbaugh says jump, that this GM's not going to say how high, you're out of your mind. I mean, a first time GM and my head coach who is coming off a national championship victory, has been to the Super Bowl in the NFL, and has shown that he knows what he's doing. You want me to trade Justin Herbert? I hope you know what you're doing, but I'll trade away Justin Herbert if that's really what you want.
Sam Darnold equals goat. So I guess. Oh, that's right. Damon's a big Skull fan, huh?
He is a Vikings fan, and I guarantee you that him typing that in the comments, he's has tears coming down from his face. He is probably absolutely crying because as soon as Kirk Cousins went down last year and they didn't bring him back, Minnesota is down there. They might be number 4 in the division now. So with the Bears winning 5 games this year, that means the Vikings are going to win 4.
Yeah, the Packers will win 12 and have a Hall of Fame
13.
quarterback.
Yeah. 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 They'll have an amazing run game. They've got 10 or 11 picks in the draft this year.
Hey,
Um,
you're not worried about Aaron Jones coming in there and running all over your Packers, your
as
cheesehead
long as
defense?
as long as we don't play the Vikings week 1, when Aaron Jones pulls his hamstring, we won't have to worry about him for a few weeks.
That's
So
exactly what happened last year. He's
exactly
going off
right.
on the Bears. The
No,
hate.
I Aaron Jones being cut from Green Bay absolutely hurts the Packers fan,
Yeah.
because
It
he's
hurt me as
been
a Bears fan because we had just signed Swift, and I was like, "You telling me I could have had Aaron Jones?" And I mean, I like Swift, but Aaron Jones is a
but
dog.
Aaron Jones is also 28, 29 years old.
Yeah, I think he
So
turns 30
I
this
mean,
year.
he's like you said, he's a dog. He's a dog, which means he don't have very much life left. Um, you know, so they signed him to a 1-year deal, I think, in Minnesota, $7 million.
Did you
He's
see
gonna.
that they asked him kind of what brought him to Minnesota? And he was like, honestly, I don't even know who's on the roster. I, I left Green Bay, came straight right here.
He didn't say that. Did he really say
Swear
that?
to God, he said he didn't know who was on the roster on his opening presser. He wants blood, bro. I'm telling you, green and yellow blood is all he wants.
Why would you not go somewhere where you have a chance to win a title?
He ain't worried about titles this far in his career. Why would he care now?
I mean, he's been so close playing for Green Bay. That's all they ever do is get close. And then, I mean, I'm convinced that Aaron Jones threw the playoff game against the 49ers a few years ago when he had that pass down the sideline, and then he decided to slow down and try to cut back in, then cut back out, and he was on the sideline when he could have just kept running and scored a touchdown. But
I
instead,
thought
we lose to the San Francisco 49ers.
I thought he was going to go to the next team that I have on here. Leighton Vander Esch retires from football from the Dallas Cowboys. I thought when Aaron Jones was cut, I was like, man, he's going back home. He's going to Dallas. He's going to go put that star on his helmet because he's from Texas, and every time he runs in Texas, he goes off. But
And and not only that, he won a state high school championship, I believe, at Cowboy Stadium. And his old head coach is the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. But maybe that's one of the reasons why he didn't go there. I don't know what his relationship
Oh, that's true.
with
McCarthy's
McCarthy.
sitting down there, ain't he?
Um, at least with Kevin O'Connell, he is a disciple of Sean McVay, just as you could say that LaFleur is. Well, LaFleur is not a disciple of McVay. LaFleur is more of a
Same
disciple
tree.
of, yeah, they all come from the Shanahan tree. But Kevin O'Connell comes from the McVay tree. So
Hmm.
maybe he sees similar offensive philosophies and stuff like that. But I mean, I don't know, Aaron Jones. I hope that for your sake that they draft another running back in the draft, and get you a little bit of help, somebody that can spell you, somebody that can make it to where you're only touching the ball 15 times a game, because you can't put it on his shoulders to try to carry this team.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as we said earlier, AJ Dillon goes back to Green Bay, so they can't sign him. Alexander Madison, I didn't put him on there because it didn't really matter to me, but I think he signed with the Raiders or something like that. So yeah, that'll be a draft somebody or sign someone after the draft or something to that effect. But yeah, did Leighton Vander Esch retiring do anything for you? I mean, he's a guy I knew him in the draft because I believe that's the same draft. The Bears drafted linebacker in that same draft. I believe that was the Roquan draft, if I'm not mistaken. And I only knew him because it was a position of need. But yeah,
It's never fun to see anybody retire early due to injury.
hmm.
When Leighton Vander Esch came in, he came in strong, and I believe he came in with Jalen Smith, or around about the same time as Jalen Smith from Notre Dame.
Might be right.
And these two guys kind of got put on the map pretty quickly in Dallas too. So no, that defense, that whole Dallas Cowboys team right now, since we're talking about it's confusing what they're doing. They haven't really done much in free agency. They don't have a team, in my opinion. The team is not built to win it all right now.
Hmm.
You've got to get Dak some more help. I mean, who's the starting running back in Dallas? Aaron, do you know?
They let Pollard go to Tennessee.
They didn't
Um,
bring anybody else in, so you're probably looking at Rico
Dowdle.
Dowdle, and you got the coach's son out there too.
Oh, little dude.
The
He was small. He's like 5'5".
Yeah, but he's a pass catcher, and I can't think of his name.
Came out of Kansas State, right?
Yeah, yeah. But they've got him. They cut Michael Gallup, which means their wide receivers right now are CeeDee Lamb,
And two
Cavante
nuggets.
Turpin. I feel like they had another wide receiver last year that was their number two. Oh, they signed Martavius Bryant as well, who hasn't played in the NFL in
Jeez.
about 3 years.
That's some
Um,
Jerry Jones shit right
so
there.
that is welcome to Jerry's world. So yeah, I don't know what Dallas is doing, but again, we're in March right now. We are
Yeah.
in March, trying to look ahead at the upcoming season when
Hmm.
the draft could come and we could say, "Oh my God, Dallas got this guy and this guy and this guy." I mean, look at last year when we said, "Oh my God, um, the Philadelphia Eagles got Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith, and they got this guy and they got this guy," and then the wheels fell off at the end of the season.
Yeah.
The wheels absolutely fell off for Philadelphia at the end of the season. So just because you win in the offseason or you're coming off a strong season doesn't mean you can't be a mid level team the following year if you're not able to retool and reload.
That's very true.
And Dallas is not retooling and reloading at all. They are piddle farting right now.
Piddle farting. I
They're
like
piddle farting,
that.
and they're I don't know. I don't know. Jerry doesn't have a lot of time left. He's like an old dog. His
I
time
thought
is
I
go
talked
ahead.
to a friend of mine at work that's a Cowboys fan. I was like, "Man, y'all know you're allowed to sign people, right? Like free agency started. You can bring people in. It is okay to do." He was like, "Man, they don't ever sign nobody." And I was like, "Well, I guess now that I think of it, I guess like To back in the day, they signed him, but trying to think of huge free agency acquisitions really since the salary cap. I can't think of a whole lot of them in Dallas. But
Um, yeah, didn't they bring in Stephon Gilmore last year?
Was it last year or the year before? I thought
The year
he
before.
was coming
I think
off
he was
2
with
years,
Indianapolis last year, wasn't he? Where
maybe.
was Gilmore at last year?
I mean, he's still a free agent. I know that. I know he's been in Indy and in Dallas. Let me look it up. Stephon Gilmore last year. He's 33 though.
Yeah, he signs about 1-year deals every year.
Hmm.
Yeah, he was with Dallas last year.
Yeah. So and he would have been a top contributor with Diggs being hurt, but I guess you get Diggs back to go with Bland, who they gave all pro honors to because he took the ball, took interceptions to the house a lot. And then he got absolutely cooked. But both their corners do that. They get absolutely cooked for like 3 quarters of the game, and then they do an interception and take it to the house.
Who was it they were playing? Was it a game against the New England Patriots where Diggs got burnt either for a touchdown and he took it to the house, or not? He didn't get. Well, he got burnt for a touchdown by the wide receiver and they took it to the house, and then the Patriots got the ball and it got picked. I think it was the other way around. I think Diggs picked maybe Mac Jones, took it to the house, and then the next play, Mac Jones throws like a 75, 80-yard touchdown, and Diggs is the one that gets burnt. And it's
Yeah,
just like, how does that happen?
it's uh one side to the other is black and white, and there's no gray area with their DBs. It seems like, but I meant to
Well,
look up who were top remaining free agents. I guess I can real quick. Unless there was something else that you wanted to. You sounded like you were going to say something.
I was actually going to ask you who, and I'm putting you on the spot because I didn't ask you this before or anything like that, but if you had to name a team right now that you feel like is the winner of free agency, who has won not just free agency, but you can include trades in there too.
Hmm.
But who, in your opinion, has been the winner of free agency?
Hmm. I'm trying to think. I like a lot of the moves that a lot of different teams, and I don't just want to be a Chicago Bears homer. I like a lot of the moves that we've made, but uh, I feel like I feel like I can name a loser faster than I can name a winner. I mean, we just talked about Cowboys, the Rams losing Aaron Donald. That's a big loss for them. Um, Arizona didn't do a whole lot other than bringing in Desmond Ritter. But as far as a winner, huh,
I think one team that could be a winner and or a loser, depending on how their signing goes, is the Atlanta Falcons. If Kirk Cousins comes
mm-hmm.
back and can light the world on fire, you're a winner. But if Kirk Cousins comes back and he's not playing to at least, Kirk Cousins of last year before he got hurt,
Yeah,
you're going to be a loser. I like what the Texans are doing right now too. They brought in Daniil Hunter from Minnesota, and they continue to add guys to this roster. They traded for Joe Mixon and then
yeah,
proceeded to give Joe Mixon a 3-year contract. And even Minnesota, what Minnesota's been doing on the defensive side of the ball, bringing in those linebackers like we talked about last week and those rushers as well. There's a lot of excitement for some of these teams. And then you look at teams like the Chargers who got rid of their 2 top wide receivers and their old aging edge rushers are coming back on lesser contracts. And that team's getting ready for a blow up,
mm-hmm.
as opposed to being able to compete. Um,
That's true. But they're in that salary cap hell, where they had to make these. I mean, Keenan Allen said this when he landed in Chicago. They asked him, what went into you leaving LA, and he said, "Well, I was coming off the best year of my career, and then they come to me and ask me to take a pay cut. No, I'm not. I'm
mhm.
not going to do that. I just had the best year of my career. You want me to take a pay cut? Like it ain't gonna happen." So that was that's why he was even available. And then New Orleans Saints are always in that area where they're trying to get under the cap. The only signing that I know of note is Chase Young, and I mean I like Chase Young, but is he going to be your starter or is he going to be a rotational guy? Because I feel
Well,
like
he
he's a
just he just
rotational pass rusher.
he just had neck surgery.
Hmm.
So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, the Saints continue to kick the can down the road, and they're continuously putting themselves in that cap hell to where they can't really build a team around what they have.
That was
Um,
and that was a team that I thought it made sense for them to trade for a Justin Fields because they brought in Derek Carr last year. It didn't really work out, but he's there on I guess a 2-year deal, so he's back. You got an aging defense. Well, you're gonna bring Jameis Winston back, I guess,
they
just
didn't
because he
bring
knows.
Jameis Winston back.
But did he sign somewhere?
He's in Cleveland.
Oh, he's behind Deshaun.
With well, he's not the only one. So is Tyler Huntley. So is Dorian Thompson Robinson. They got 4 quarterbacks right now up there in Cleveland.
Oh, they're
Four
gonna trade
quarterbacks.
somebody out of there. I bet.
I
I
mean,
bet
that would
somebody
be
trades for DTR.
either that or Winston, or I mean, I would say out of those quarterbacks, Winston's the closest thing to a starter. So do they do what Arizona did when Arizona brought in Josh Dobbs and then they traded him to Minnesota?
I don't. I don't know. I
Oh, wait
mean,
a minute. No, 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 no. No, no, no. Somebody traded Josh Dobbs to Arizona.
the Steelers cut him. He goes to Arizona. Then Arizona traded him to Minnesota.
I thought that he got traded to Arizona.
I thought he signed there as a free agent, but you could be right. It might have been like a throwaway 7th round pick next year or something to that effect. It might have been almost like the Joe
No,
Mixon
the
situation.
Browns. The Browns last year traded Josh Dobbs to Arizona
I said
for
we're
a
gonna
fifth
do
round
this
pick
again.
for a fifth round pick in this draft. And
Wow.
then
So Josh Dobbs last year got more in return than Justin Fields, a starting quarterback, did this year.
well, it was Josh Dobbs and a 2023 seventh round pick
Oh, okay.
for a fifth round pick in
For a 5th round pick the next
2024.
year. That's
And
still
then he
wild.
went and then he went and he got traded to the Vikings. So the Cardinals gave up a fifth and then ended up getting a sixth from the Vikings.
So they just
Um,
traded down in the draft for his
yeah,
services, for half a year of his
essentially for
services.
half a year, right? You would have thought that he would have went for more though.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't realize Jameis Winston signed with Cleveland. I've never seen him play in cold weather. He played
Mm-mm.
at Florida State, and then he goes to Tampa, and then
And
he
then he's
goes
in a
to New
dome.
Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
I We'll see how that goes come October.
I mean, if Winston's even with the team, if Winston sticks, if you go and look at Jameis Winston's, they uploaded a video on TikTok. The Cleveland Browns did of him like, I'm here to lead and help this team win, and it's just like Jameis Winston's probably a pretty cool dude when he's
Yeah,
not trying to steal crab legs, but he's just so cringy. Like Jameis
yeah.
Winston is a cringy dude. And if you go and look at this TikTok video, and I'll send it to you after the stream and everything, but it's just like, dude, what?
There's a guy
Like,
on Barstool, the guy with the long hair. I think his name's Caleb Presley, that
mhm.
does just like one-on-one interviews. And he did one with Jameis, but he's got the big dude there with him. So the big dude's there dressed as a lobster while he was doing the interview with Jameis Winston. It was so funny.
I'll never get past him before a
Eating
game.
the W,
Just
man.
eating W's, man. Like, come on. How do you I don't know. I mean, but again, he's the only quarterback in NFL history to throw 30 touchdown passes and 30 interceptions in the same season. Um, so
Wild.
I mean, wish nothing but the best for him, but I wouldn't be surprised if Cleveland says, "Hey, let's trade this guy. Let's trade him, get a draft pick for him because if they put DTR on the practice squad, he's going to sign with somebody else."
Oh yeah, he's gone if he
Same
signs.
thing for Tyler Huntley. If he goes to the practice squad, he's going to sign with somebody else.
Yeah, I think whenever Jameis does retire, he's got He could have a future in radio if he wanted it. Could you imagine him as the color commentator, even at like Florida State? Just go down there and call games on the radio once a week. I
I
just
think they
think,
need to put him on TV. I think he'd be a lot better on TV.
yeah, you
He'll
probably,
have a show. He'll be on, it's NFL Network or something like that because he's he's a character for sure. And I think that you need that character to come through on camera and not just through radio or through the waves.
yeah. I mean, there was a guy at work that we were talking about it with Kelsey, the Kelsey brothers and their podcast and their ability. If they would have both retired and he would have done something with the like what they're doing with the Manning cast, I'd watch the Kelsey cast over the Manning cast every day. I don't
You say somebody from work said that, but I said that a few streams ago too. So
know.
take that credit away from your buddy at work, and you give that credit right here.
So my friend Kyle, who's on this show with me on the 12 Ounce Score Up podcast,
No,
he
I
floated
was
this
honestly
idea.
surprised. I was surprised that Travis and Jason didn't retire together,
Yeah,
uh, and attempt to be first ballot Hall of Famers together as well, and go into the Hall of Fame at the same time.
yeah.
Uh, but who knows? Maybe Jason Kelsey isn't completely retired. Maybe he comes back,
Maybe Travis gets married this offseason, and
becomes a stay-at-home dad.
it's Kelsey Swift or Swift Kelsey.
Uh, well, DeAndre Swift plays for the Bears now, so that doesn't really work anymore.
Still some jerseys to the Swifties. I was shitting out gold during the Super Bowl, solid gold, and you just let it sit there, man. You didn't pull any of that for the TikTok. Speaking of the TikTok, follow us on TikTok, Daily Football Roundup, or is it DFR on there?
Daily Football Roundup. If you want to follow us on the TikTok, I've actually been live the whole hour that we've been on the stream, and the people on TikTok are probably just looking at me fucking talking to myself,
Baffled.
right? Because they can't hear Aaron on the other side. So I've got you obviously in the headphones, but I'm hoping that they're just not looking at me and like, this guy, what is this guy talking about? I've got it up there telling them to go listen to the 12 ounce crowd or go find us on the live stream right now. Yeah, been live the whole time. We're trying to figure out a way to get the whole podcast live on the TikTok, on the Tickety Talk. We are on YouTube. We are on Facebook. We are on X. And I suspect a lot more content for the 12 Ounce Crow Out podcast with the upcoming season next year under the Daily Football Roundup brand. I think that we're going to have a really good second season. Obviously, Corey's not here with us tonight. He's out in the mountains somewhere. I think that since he works out in the mountains, I think that he says like "hi ho," like the Seven Dwarfs, But yeah, follow us anywhere you can. I'll steal this from Aaron. Hit the little bell on YouTube. That way you get a notification when we go live.
Hell yeah.
Follow Daily Football Roundup on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, X, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram. Follow us anywhere. We'll get out of here. We'll get out of your hair. If you missed us, actually, listen to us on Spotify the next day, or on what's the other one?
iHeartRadio.
Or on iHeartRadio. You can find us the next morning, listen to the whole podcast. And yeah, we appreciate the followers. We appreciate people listening. Drop your comments in YouTube, drop them in Facebook, drop them anywhere that we're live streaming so we can actually put those comments on screen and talk about your comments too, because we love engagement with the listeners too. Look for us to go live after the draft. We will have a draft special, at least one show. Don't know if we'll be able to get two out of there. But again, hit that bell on YouTube so you do know when we go live. But other than that, Aaron, I'll let you tell him since Corey's not here. I'll let you tell him.
All right. Bye.